Good afternoon. I'm Taylor Comblouzier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities. We'd like to extend our thanks to WCPD for sponsoring this session. Our next presenter is Alex Heath, who's the president and CEO at Ethos Gold Corp. Ethos Gold, a Discovery Group company, has accumulated a portfolio of district-scale properties in British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, and Newfoundland that have a lot of discovery potential. The company is currently focused on its Two Good project in Newfoundland, as well as its Schefferville project in Quebec. We'll turn it over to Alex, who will have 15 minutes for presentation, and then we'll save 5 minutes for a Q&A session at the end. Alex, please take it away.
Great. Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, my name is Alex Heath. I'm the president and CEO of Ethos Gold. I'm just going to share my screen now with a short presentation for you. So Ethos Gold Corporation is an exploration stage company. We are a member of Discovery Group, and we're focused on... Sorry, we've got the text following me here. We're focused on exploration projects throughout Canada. A strong technical team led by Dr. Rob Carpenter. Rob was the CEO of Kaminak Gold back in 2008 to 2011. And we have a portfolio of projects, including a project in Newfoundland and a project in Heaven Lake. These are the ones I'm going to talk about today. But we do have 9 projects in total throughout the portfolio. The goal for the company is to limit the downside risk by being systematic in our exploration efforts, focusing on district scale opportunities with significant upside potential. And we are looking for a discovery. As Taylor mentioned, we are part of Discovery Group. Discovery Group is an alliance of public companies. You can see here, Great Bear being the largest one that just recently got taken over by Kinross Gold. We take advantage of economies of scale. We have great access to people. So if you ever need a structural geologist or someone who's focused on a certain specific task, we can pull them from the pool of talented individuals that we have here. So you can see there, Ethos is part of the group, K2, Fireweed, Great Bear Royalties, Genesis, Bluestone, Elemental Royalties, Gold Basin, and Kodiak and Valor. We've had a history of success, and you can see on the right there, not just Great Bear recently, but also Northern Empire, which was acquired in 2018, and Kaminak Gold, which was acquired for $520 million by Gold Corp in 2016. Our technical advisory committee consists of mainly Dr. Rob Carpenter, who's brought in a lot of the key guys that he had working with him at Kaminak Gold. So Rob Rostowski, Dan McNeil, and Al Wainwright all worked with Rob Carpenter at Kaminak. Recently, we added Jody Gibson, who's actually the Prospector of the Year in the Yukon in 2020, and for him to take a look at our Newfoundland project, and Mark Leroux, who advises us in our Quebec project, the Schefferville Gold Project. We had just announced yesterday that actually Rob Carpenter has joined our board as well. He'll be the co-chairman along with Craig Roberts. My background is I'm a former investment banker, did that for almost 9 years with a boutique investment bank focused on mineral exploration projects. Craig Roberts is our chairman. He's also the CEO of Newfound Gold. Hank Van Elfen and Michael Murphy are serial entrepreneurs in the mining business, and you've probably seen their names. Mike Murphy was one of the founders of Torex Gold, which is now a billion-dollar company with a gold project in Mexico. And rounding it out, John Robbins and Jim Paterson are the co-founders of Discovery Group. They're our advisors on this company, as well as Jeff Sundar, who's advising us on the corporate development side. I'll quickly have an overview of our projects. We've got 9 in Canada. Today, I'm just going to focus on the Two Good project in Newfoundland and the Heaven Lake project in Ontario. But the idea about this portfolio approach is to look for district scale opportunities for projects that are off the beaten track, but we have good host rocks. They're typically iron-hosted formations or orogenic deposits that we think that we can advance from grassroots exploration projects that have had very little work done, possibly no drilling whatsoever, and advance them, spending little capital, upwards of $400,000 or $500,000, come up with drill targets, and then drill it. The way we look at it is each year, these projects are fighting for that exploration dollar. So Last year, it was Perk Rocky was the top project in our top prospect. We drilled it, we didn't find anything, and now it's back down to the bottom. We take that approach. It's very mercenary. These projects are fighting for that next dollar that's going to go into the ground. So looking at Too Good in Newfoundland, this project actually came through our association with Newfound Gold. As I mentioned before, Craig Roberts is the CEO of that company. He looked at it and passed for Newfound Gold, and then kind of tapped us on the shoulder and said, hey, you might want to take a look at this. It's pretty interesting. We were able to put together 5 different property transactions and come up with one overall property that's 118 square kilometers. It's about 100 kilometers north of Gander, approximately 200 kilometers away from where Newfound is drilling today. When the Eastern Atlantic bubble opened up in 2021, we were finally able to get in on the ground and follow up on some historical grab samples that were found by the local prospectors. And on our first pass, you can see in this sort of central south region, we came up with 3 very high grade prospects. The first grab sample was over 500 grams per ton, and we had one as high as 7,800 grams per ton. We followed it up with airborne magnetics, some local soil sampling, and finally with some trenching results that we just put out this week. So the 2 main showings that we're going to be drilling later this year are the Titan. This is where we had the 7,800 gram per ton showing. These are quartz veins, very nuggety. So we need to drill it to find out, what is the width, what is the orientation, and what is the average grade. And we'll only be able to find that out through drilling. It's, very short intervals here. We're talking about 40, 50 meters of strike. That's not to say that it doesn't continue, but we just don't see it outcropping beyond that. We've done some trenching. Those results just came out. They're indicative of that same nuggety effect. We're seeing, some high grade hits and then some areas where there's nothing there. So looking to follow that up in April, May of this year, we'll be drilling Titan, and then the next prospect showing is Quinlan, which is in the same south central area, about 400 meters away. Again, very high grade hits in quartz veins. So 2,500 meters. These are all shallow holes, about 100 meters each, so about 25 holes in total. The next project is in Ontario. We do have 5 projects in total, but this is the one that is, right now at the top of the list for next to be drilled. This is actually a project that came through Rob Carpenter. He took a look at a map of Ontario and drew circles, 20 kilometer circles around operating existing mines. And this property came up, and what he did was he cross-referenced the Ontario Geological Survey and looked for areas where there were some historical exploration, but not necessarily drilling. And lo and behold, we found something that was open ground with copper, nickel, base platinum group metals, right 20 kilometers within Lac des Îles, which is an operating platinum, palladium, nickel, copper mine. So we got on the ground last year, spent about $400,000, did some VTEM work, and lo and behold, we came up with what looks to be ultramafic units. We're talking about, here's a scale bar, 10 to 15 kilometers in length, about 100 meters across. Just next steps here will be drilling. So we've got a permit application in place. It should come out in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be drilling that in around the same time schedule as we will be for Too Good. Similarly, about 2,500 meters. Unlike Too Good, this is much more consistent in terms of these deposits. Unlike Too Good, which is a very nuggety effect, we can drill these a lot further apart. Instead of 10-meter step outs, we'll be drilling from 2 different pad locations, about 8 kilometers apart. Again, drilling that in around May. Quickly looking at our cap structure, we've got 144 million shares outstanding, approximately 30 million market cap. We've got 6.5 million in working capital. 3 million of that is cash. The other 3.5 is shares of companies that we have in the portfolio, including Nevada King Gold Mines. We've got 6.5 million shares of them, as well as other projects that we picked up through our work on other projects. So our largest shareholders are Crescat Capital. They're sitting at just under 12%. They came in on the back of the Iron Point project, which was in Nevada, which we transferred to Nevada King last year for those shares. But they are also very much interested in our Too Good project. Eric Sprott came in the summer last year, put in $2 million for the interest in the Too Good project. And he's just sitting there at 4.8%. And that's sort of the high level overview of Ethos Gold. So we've got the two main projects we're going to be drilling, Too Good in Newfoundland, Heaven Lake in Ontario. We'll continue to advance the other projects through grassroots exploration, coming up with drill targets. The idea here is limiting the downside, cutting to the chase, drilling to find out whether or not these are significant discoveries. And if not, we drop them. It's fairly mercenary, but the upside potential is fairly significant. We're certainly in this to find a discovery, and I think we've got a team there to do that. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks a lot, Alex, for the great presentation. I'd remind everybody, all the viewers, that the Q&A session is open for questions. We do have some that have come in. So the first one here, how do you finance all these projects with such a small market cap without massive shareholder dilution, or do you plan to option some of your projects or even sell them?
Well, they don't actually require huge budgets. That's kind of the point of the portfolio approach that we've got here, is that they can be advanced for very little capital. And then when it comes to drilling, that's when we would tap the markets and look for, in our case, because they're all in Canada, we can raise flow through. But the idea here is certainly not to spend, millions of dollars on each project. We are trying to sift through the portfolio and come up with the best targets. But these are generally structured as option agreements where you have, annual payments of shares. And what that forces us to do is make a decision quickly. So we advance the project, and if at the end of the next year, there's going to be a share payment, and we have to decide whether that project's still worthwhile to A, finance, and B, issue more shares for, or do we drop it and focus on other projects?
Great. Okay. Another question here, just wondering about kind of jurisdictions. Obviously, you've got a few and throughout Canada. Are you kind of have some favorite jurisdictions, or do you kind of look at everything and it's more on a project basis?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we necessarily have a favorite jurisdiction. We do have most of our projects in Ontario, and that I think is just a function of the fact that, it's a big province. It's a superior province with very good host rocks, so that's a little bit of a bias. But in terms of jurisdictions, Newfoundland tends to be the best right now, just in terms of permitting and local support and what have you. So, but I don't think we would rule out anywhere necessarily, especially within Canada. We're agnostic to jurisdictions. We would look in the States, we'd look in Mexico. We probably wouldn't look in Venezuela or places like that, but we do have an open mind, and we would look at the merits of each project individually.
Okay. Another question here, just wondering kind of, if you, kind of, as you said, you have that mercenary approach to projects, if drilling does, turn up something exciting and, you continue to drill, what's kind of the furthest that you'd want to take the project? Like, is there kind of a point where you'd say, okay, we've done what we set out to do and we want to kind of sell it, or would you, do you want to be developers, or how does that look?
Yeah, well, if you take a look at the history of Discovery Group and how, the types of transactions that have happened, they've mostly been exploration. You develop a resource, and then by the time you've advanced it far enough, you get acquired. So that typically is the case. We'd like to think that we can threaten to develop these projects, but that just hasn't been the history of how we do things. So I would say, yeah, that is kind of the idea here, is we're looking for brand new discoveries, and then there would be, some senior partner like Kinross or Goldcorp or Newmont, if you will.
Okay. Maybe you could kind of outline the approach, or I guess, I don't want to say philosophy, but the approach you take with exploration at a new project. Is it set out to be kind of a comprehensive suite of early stage evaluation before drilling, or do you only do kind of what you need to kind of get an interesting target and then drill it kind of as soon as possible? Like, I guess, are you putting a lot of effort into that early stage, sampling, geophysics, to get a really good handle, or do you just want to get kind of to the drilling as soon as possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's a bit of a balance there too, because, we are dependent on capital markets and interests from investors to advance a lot of these projects. So you can't necessarily wait too long and do too much grassroots exploration. So there is, and there's also that, well, like I said, a lot of these are option payments. So you got this wall of stock that's coming that you have to make a payment. So there is that balance between spending too much time. We do kind of set expectations for ourselves when we first get into these projects of what we would like to see, and we have to be exceeding that. Otherwise, there's lots of projects we've got in the portfolio. There's many more that are in the pipeline that we get pitched on every day. So, and that's what I mean when I talk about, being mercenary, is that there's always going to be something that changes the order of what you thought was your number one project could suddenly be number 2 or 3. And not every one of these is going to get the full budget that they want.
Right. Okay. And kind of on that same theme, I know this is a question I've asked you before, but just maybe it would be helpful to kind of understand the process that you have for kind of doing that evaluation internally, and kind of what that looks like. Like how do you kind of champion a project within the group?
Yeah, so we definitely lean heavily on our technical team, and certainly Rob Carpenter's experience as being the chief technical officer and now our chairman of the company. So what we do is we have calls every Monday with the entire team, and we talk about the advancement of each one. And then, on a semi-annual basis, roughly, we reevaluate the portfolio, and, we essentially say, which one of these projects is going to give us the best upside, and hold all these geologists accountable. And on the other side of the equation is guys like myself. I'm a CFA, I'm a finance background, capital markets guy. So it's a balance. What do we see as, being something that could actually get some interest from the market? It's not just about geology necessarily. I mean, certainly that's the biggest thing. But when we have, for example, do we want to be chasing lithium projects or iron ore projects? I mean, these all have to be part of the equation.
Great. Okay. And then I guess looking towards this year of kind of the exploration work and drilling in particular, last year we heard a lot from, lots of companies essentially, just with the massive amount of drilling that was done and impacts from COVID on kind of the labs and that kind of backlog there that, prevented steady news flow for a lot of companies. How does your outlook, or what is your outlook this year on the drilling front and getting results?
Yeah, I think it should be a little bit better. I mean, there was certainly a lot of interest in work being done in Newfoundland, which just backlogged the labs. But on top of that, I heard that COVID protocols slowed things down, and then a third, wrench that was thrown into the mix was apparently there was some sort of data breach or some sort of hack happened at one of the labs. So I don't anticipate COVID being as big of an issue, and I don't anticipate any of these hacking things happening. So I would expect that 2022 would be a little bit better than last year.
Great. Okay. So we've got just a little bit over a minute here. Maybe I'll let you kind of provide a final pitch to investors and let you wrap up the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say the pitch for Ethos Gold is, we are discovery oriented. We've got an excellent technical team. We're backed by a discovery group, excellent access to capital, and we're swinging for the fences. This is not a company that wants to be looking for small deposits. We're trying to make a big splash. So have a look at us, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch.
Great. Okay. So thank you very much, Alex, and for presenting Ethos Gold to us this afternoon. And thank you to everybody.